All right. Hello and welcome to the Imagine Belonging at Work podcast brought to you by Rhodes Perry Consulting. I am your host, Rhodes Perry. So this episode is a very special one. And it is specifically for anyone who can affirmatively answer this question. So are you a diversity, equity, and inclusion small business owner feeling the pressure of economic uncertainty and unfounded assaults on our vital work? If you're like me, this particular episode is just for you, and it's one that you absolutely can't afford. So a little bit of context before we get into it. Over 60 years, right? Diversity professionals worldwide have emerged as some of the best business leaders due to the complexity of our work and the industries we continue to influence. So, given this high standard of excellence, I couldn't think of a better guest than to introduce you to Amber Vilhauer, who is the CEO of No Guts, No Glory Enterprises, which is an Inc. 5000 top marketing agency in the United States. Amber has supported thousands of entrepreneurs, including me, on 6 continents and specializes in business growth consulting that will help your company experience infinite impact by leading with your values. So this is something definitely for us, like we really believe in that. And Amber is a multi-award winning winner for Female Entrepreneur of the Year and other Women in Business Professional Awards, which are a testament to her unwavering commitment to excellence and achieving noteworthy results. So today, together, we're going to explore a couple of big themes. Number one, we're going to jump into her book, Infinite Impact, to really explore ways to leverage resilience during this pretty challenging time, how to authentically lead in risky times. We'll try to find some opportunities in this collective trauma that so many of us are living through, and how we reintroduce ourselves potentially, how we rebuild to really find some challenges that we know we're uniquely qualified to lead on. And then lastly, we're going to be talking about vision, right? We're going to be starting to dream of a world that is worth winning, one that we are actively trying to build. So just a reminder, if you are interested in connecting with guests like Amber one-on-one after our conversations like these, go ahead and check out the Belonging membership community. You can find that easily by joining our newsletter at rhodesperry.com/subscribe, and we'll connect you with lots of great resources that are especially needed during these times. So with all that, Amber, welcome to the show. It is great having you here.
Rhodes, I'll just tell all listeners, Rhodes is one of my favorite people on the planet. And it was such an honor to just stand by his side as he launched his latest book and to see the work that you're doing in the world. I'm proud of it and I'm proud to be here. So thank you.
Thank you, Amber. And I feel like this show wouldn't have been possible without putting Imagine Belonging out there in the world. And that wouldn't have been possible without you. So thanks for all of the support and just helping get through a book launch, which, as you know, having done that for many, many people, that's no easy task.
Yeah.
And so, so speaking of books, you have a new book, Infinite Impact, out, and we were talking like almost a year ago of bringing you on the podcast, and I feel like the timing now is even better than last year. I know that your book has had a lot of traction already, and I feel like in these moments where the status quo is gone, right? It feels like for many of us, there's a lot of chaos, a lot of uncertainty. And I think the book still provides just fresh insights on how to lead with our values and how to find these opportunities when so much uncertainty is in the air. And so I was hoping that you could talk with us a little bit about some of these core strategies that are like the framework within Infinite Impact, core principles to find resilience for companies like mine, a diversity, equity, and inclusion company, where we can still restate our value proposition when there's unfounded attacks coming towards us, right? But knowing that we offer some unique value to support the workforce and to still help businesses achieve outcomes, right? So what are some of those foundational principles that can remind us of the resilience that we already have as entrepreneurs, as small business owners?
Thank you. That's a big question to start with. I have so many different ways that I want to answer that. So bear with me here.
Yeah.
You know, it's It is. It's a really interesting time. It to me really mirrors a lot of how things were back in 2020 when COVID first hit.
Mhm.
And when that happened, the world just stopped for a couple of weeks and everybody was almost holding their breath. It was a very weird energy on the planet. Everything slowed way down. And a lot of people were just waiting to see what would happen next. And right now, that's happening again in many regards. We're all kind of just holding our breath, waiting to see what happens next. The difference is that people's resiliency is way down
Mhm.
because back in 2020, well, before that, life was life, and we had never experienced something quite this shocking at a global level all at the same time. And it was a traumatic shock to the system. And there wasn't a lot of global information on how to cope and how to move forward, how to heal, how to even understand what just happened. We just went back to business as usual, I guess. And what happened is people buried it and stuffed it and maybe talked within their own circles, but they started coping harder and harder. AI came in and then started accelerating everything and then added significant complexity on top of what was already significant complexity, on top of elections and everything else that's happened. It's so outrageously unbelievable at this point that people are dumbfounded. Like, what do we even, I don't even know how to think through all the things that are happening right now.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
we're tired.
Yeah.
We're tired. And we
Yeah.
have decision fatigue. It's harder to think right now. It's harder to process, and we don't have the same resiliency.
Yeah.
So I'm not here, I'm not a doom and gloom person, but we are faced with a huge uphill battle. And I'm here to say, you were built for this.
Mhm.
So I want to be very clear that the leaders that are listening to this, you were built for this moment. All of the stuff that you have been through in your life, all of the tears, all of the name calling, all of the times you didn't feel like you didn't belong, all of that gave you resiliency that others don't have. So at a time when resiliency is at an all-time low, you actually have more than other people, which means you're stronger than other people. And this is your time to not get scared and let that win, to not shrink. But I want you to crank your light up, and I want you to lead, and I want you to use your voice, and I want you to do it in a way that you would be proud to do it.
Yeah.
And that's at the end of the day. I talk about a lot of these principles in the book, Rhodes, to come back to your question. But at the end of the book, I talk about how at the end of the day, this is your life, this is your journey, this is your legacy. It happens moment by moment. And I want you to get to the end of your life, whenever that is, and hopefully a long, full, happy life, where you can say, I was proud of what I did and how I lived my life. I was proud of the way I communicated to other people when I was suffering inside. I was proud of the way I led, even though I felt attacked. I was proud of the little moments that created my life and this legacy. And that's what I'm going to encourage you to consider walking away from this podcast interview today. The core principles in infinite impact, we go into what is your alignment? How can you heal? How can you use your voice to help others and create infinite impact? I then go into books because I think writing and launching a book is the fastest way to scale your impact. And then for a book to have longevity and be successful, you need to understand business principles and non-negotiables and scaling techniques. There's no book on the market like this, not this one.
Yes.
And I'd love for you to check it out and share it with other people that you think might resonate.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Amber. Thank you for, number one, for putting the book out. That is a, a labor of love. And just that message, we were built for this, right? And really kind of, what sparked for me when you were sharing that is the message, right? Like our greatest superpower comes from our greatest wound. And I think for many of us called to lead businesses in the space of diversity, equity, and inclusion, look, we get exclusion, right? We get what it feels like not to be thought of or to be underestimated, right? And we know the harm that that causes. And we're seeing this at a global scale, right? So there's lots of opportunities to use the strengths and the know-how and what we offer in our businesses to respond in this moment. And I want to go into something that I know very much about you. You lead with your values, right? You lead with your values, and for those of us that lead with values, right, where we want to fortify the heart of diversity, equity, and inclusion, like those are central to values that we have in our businesses. How can we do that? Knowing that there's increased risk right now, right? And I guess like, we started this interview before we were recording is just kind of like talking about grounding. And you were just saying in your previous response, right? Like thinking through, right? And sometimes like in a moment like this, thinking might not serve us as well as kind of feeling into
Probably
what's
not.
right. Like just kind
Yeah.
of maybe for all of us right now, just kind of noticing what our tissues are saying in this moment, right? And feeling that authenticity, right? Like feeling us and knowing what we value. Sometimes leading with values does require risk, right? And so I guess just looking for advice, like how do you do that, right? Like I know that you do talk about values in the book, and so just insights to provide some more inspiration. Like I loved you
Sure.
saying leading with we were built for this. Like how then can we show up more authentically, and what's the promise of that?
Mhm. Well, I really started taking values more seriously back in 2020, actually. And I had some written down on a graphic somewhere in the back of Google Drive because I thought that's what business owners did. And in 2020, I worked with this man, Darius Mirshahzadeh, who wrote a book called The Core Value Equation. And it woke me up to just how important values really are and how to really go deeper with them.
Mhm.
And so, my values come from my life's lessons and learning. I mean, my number one core value is meaningful connection.
Mhm.
Now, if you flip that, you can start to paint a picture for what it was like for me growing up. I had no connection. I actually felt as worthless and invisible as a human being could feel. And people don't expect that at all, Rhodes, because when you look at me online, you're like, what? You
Mhm.
look like you were born for this stage. You're always smiling. Look at you've got these poppies and flowers behind you. You're like so happy all the time. What are you talking? You look like you're friends with everybody. Well, I had to learn how to love myself so that other people started to love me. I mean, like it was a brutal journey. And I talk more about it in the book, so I won't spend too much time on it here. But meaningful connection is become so important to me, and I decide whether or not to take on clients or team members by that value.
Mhm.
I ended up leaving a marriage based on that value. I mean, it's that important to me now. And I understand that I won't stand for anything less than meaningful connection. And I don't make a big ruckus about it, Rhodes. Like if I don't find meaningful connection with somebody, I just quietly exit because to me, I really look at picking and choosing my battles. And I'm not here to create more conflict in the world. And I know other people, might feel differently and to each their own. But for me, I just have learned, especially through a lot of like the 2020 and 2021 narcissism and gaslighting era, and there's conflict everywhere. I didn't want to choose to engage with that. I felt like my energy was better spent loving on people. And
Yeah.
so if I come across somebody that I don't meaningfully connect with, I'm like, cool, I see your
Mhm.
number, and I exit and I just go find my people. And my community is so full of the most outrageous love and belonging that I've ever experienced. And I created that because I chose that as my value, as my boundary, and it's non-negotiable. It's
Mhm.
period, end of story. Other core values I have: unwavering excellence, deeply fulfilled, better together, and lean in. There is equal passion, equal story and experience behind each of those. And now I just know how to move in the world based on those core values. even in a time where I feel tired, grieving, depressed, angry, all the things. I'm like, oh, but I'm a person who leans in.
Mhm.
I'm a person that wants to feel deeply fulfilled at the end of the day. So, what action do I need to do right now to shift out of those feelings into the ones that I have chosen to stand for in my life? So, I
Yeah.
mean, core values, I could do a month-long seminar on the importance of them and how to integrate them in your life. But the last thing that I will say, because I don't really hear a lot of people talking about values in this way, like how to go even deeper with them. I really encourage that everybody listening, that you come up with not just your core values, but I want you to write your own definition for those values. So,
Mhm.
for example, my definition of connection is that it is an exchange of a shared value. But that's totally different than Webster's definition that was made a million years ago, right? So if you're coming up with your own definitions to your own values, then you can even go deeper into a summary of what those values are. And it just gives you further guardrails for how to show up in your life and how to raise the standard for everybody else around you. And again, you get to decide in the moment when you are interacting with someone who doesn't align with your values, how you operate, behave, take actions. That's up to you. Everybody's going to do it a little bit differently. But what happens if you don't have strong values is when you are faced in a moment with somebody who doesn't align with you, it's awkward. There's more conflict. It can be more hurtful and confusing and more time consuming, and it's a waste of energy. So doing this work up front is really a protection for you.
I 100% agree with that. And I'm thinking about some folks in the audience who might have a follow-up question. So
Right.
that is like what I'm hearing values as being that benefit, like, almost as a sorting hat, right? Where it's kind of like,
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
here's potential clients I can work with. Yes, I can do the things they want me to do. And I now have this value system, right? Like when you started to really kind of lead with your values kind of in 2020 and beyond, I would imagine there might have been kind of a contraction in your business of like, oh, well, I might be bringing in less revenue from people that I can serve, but they're wildly out of alignment with me. Like,
Yep.
what's the opportunity, right? When you start to kind of limit, and I think for some of us that might be a intentional choice. For others, it's just the work is shifting, it's evolving in this new era. So advice on
Thank
that,
you.
right? Where you're kind of
Mhm.
starting to say no more, you're being very clear on what boundaries are. Like, what's the opportunity in that that you can see like in hindsight once you started to implement those values?
That is so wise of you to bring up. That shows your business maturity. Because absolutely, when we make a strong change like that, the business contracts. And I have to tell you, back when this happened, Rhodes, I was in the middle of getting divorced, learning how to be a single mom for the first time. I'm moving, I'm selling my house, I'm dividing my things, I'm losing money financially. My business is exploding. I mean, beyond, I don't even know how to slow it down or control it. It's happening so fast. And I found myself scaling up from a team of maybe 17 people up to 37 practically overnight. Didn't have operations or structure or leadership in place to navigate that. And I have like absolutely no formal business training. And I had never grown this much revenue. I had never had this much impact before. So, like, this would be the time
Yeah. Yes.
to go through a risk like this. And
Yeah.
it was. And even though, I mean, my core values might seem like really flowery and positive, like I didn't realize at the time, and this is me getting really personal here, and I'm happy to do it. There was another layer to this of finding out for the first time that family members I was very, very close to were actually quite narcissistic. I had subjugated my power to them for my entire life. There was gaslighting at play. And I didn't even know what these terms meant. I knew that it became a big buzzword, and everybody was saying everybody was narcissistic and everybody was gaslighting and everybody was a victim back then. But like that was actually my lived experience. And I didn't know how to discern what to do at that time as well. And so these core values, when I introduced that into the business, I thought everything was going to be fine. But it turns out the people I had surrounded myself with were people that I was comfortable with, meaning if my whole life up to this point where it was under this influence of those types of individuals, well, that's all I knew. That's what I thought was normal in the world. So when I took a hard look at my business, guess who my clients were at the time? Guess who my team was made up of at the time?
Yikes.
And I'm waking up to all of this all at the same time. And it is a miracle I did not lose my mind, because it felt like a nuclear bomb went off in my belief system and I did not know what was real anymore. So this became like the stakes were never higher. And this was just not that long ago. So luckily I had some guardian angels come into my life to help me navigate this well. And I'm really proud of everything that I've done to completely rebuild my company and my life and my beliefs and everything else. So it has a happy ending, but I will say that for me, it was intense. And I don't believe that it's going to be that intense for other people at all. Like this was just my story. And it was a dang good one, if I may add. Like, talk about a hero's journey.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm cool with it. But at the moment, it was just this really quiet reflection of, I don't want to put myself in a situation to continue that story of the subjugation and enmeshment and codependency and blah, blah, blah. I am going to dare to live a different life. And I had no evidence it was going to work, none. I had a lot of painful exits happening, from deciding to have those family members exit my experience to clients exiting. Some of them were fiery, some were pissed off, upset team members. I have some really ugly reviews on Glassdoor from people that decided to just spam the absolute heck out of me for a while. I was harassed, I was bullied, and yet I had to just know deep down, I know the truth of who I am. I know that my heart is nothing but love. I know that I am a product of consciousness. I know that I am here in service to humanity. And it doesn't matter if people call me a pink elephant or what they call me. I know the truth, and I'm going to have faith that I will be protected in this season where I decide to stand up for the truth of who I am and what I believe to be true. And I just, instead of looking at the big picture, because it was so overwhelming and so painful, Rhodes, I could only look at these little tiny micro moments in front of me. And you know what I saw when I did that? A beautiful, loving client would pop in that had no traces of that old negative energy. And then another would pop in, and somebody would send me a nice comment on Instagram. And I decided to see, like, okay, this is my future. These people, this is what I'm fighting for, is to be in the room with those people.
Yeah.
And day by day, year by year, all of a sudden, my room is full of those people.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. That is, it's a hopeful message, right? Just looking back at the more recent past, right? It's something that probably feels comparable for business owners like myself, where it's like, okay, we've been through COVID, we're we're still in business, and now it's like we have some unique challenges, and that there's a lot of unfounded assaults on what our work is and what it isn't, and so there's certainly an opportunity at, I guess, taking control of the narrative or reintroducing who we are and how we can respond in this moment of collective trauma and grief, right? There's so many areas where we can plug in and support other businesses. And I guess, like, because of this recent experience that you've had, how did you reintroduce yourself? Like, how did you send out that new signal? Certainly you defined your values and you kind of wrote out what they meant to you. But was there like an intentional, like you have a marketing background, so so educate us on like kind of more of how you did that at scale, if you did, or like what was your process? Because I think that could be really helpful for some of us in reimagining how we talk about our work and how we could help during this moment.
I'm going to lean on something that I call the foundational four framework
Mhm.
that is listed over dozens of pages. It's most of the book, An Infinite Impact.
Mhm.
And it is a very simple and profound process that helps you to identify your avatar, your vision, your why, and talks about your values.
Mhm.
They are taught differently than how you've heard them before.
Yeah.
Avatar is commonly taught as like a persona or maybe an audience. And
Mhm.
the problem is that when you're talking to an audience, I have to try to connect with the 37-year-old stay-at-home mom and the 65-year-old man who's retiring. And my message becomes a little bit more generalized and murky at that point, and therefore it can't penetrate anybody. It can't really connect with anybody. Vision, instead of saying, I want to help 1 billion people do whatever it is, which is really unrealistic potentially. And we get to the end of our lives and still don't know if we hit our vision or not, which doesn't feel very good.
Mhm.
I'm interested in a vision that I can achieve every day. My vision is to help individuals in front of me feel heard, seen, and valued.
Mhm.
I'm doing that in this moment with love. I'm doing that in the next moment with love. I'm going to keep doing that. So every moment I'm experiencing my own vision, which is extremely empowering.
Yeah.
The why is a surprise because it's not like, oh, because I like to help people, which everybody does, right? Let's say, but it's more of what is your deepest unmet need in life. Now, it's tricky to kind of figure out your own unmet need, right? Because if we knew it, why didn't we fill our own needs, right? So instead, there's an experience of what is your avatar's unmet need, the one person we are uniquely qualified to help based
Mhm.
on our life experiences, our skills, our values, our beliefs, everything. Well, if we really can tap into the truth of who that avatar is, and I actually take people through a visualization because it's the fastest way to tap into that root. And my avatar is a woman named Heather, and I've known her for a very long time. I invented Heather, or intuited Heather rather, when I was in my 20s, before I knew anything about motherhood or kids or anything. And Heather is a 47-year-old stay-at-home mom. And anyway, so just to say, there's a whole process that you go through to find this person. You don't think of who this person is. You feel it, you intuit who is trying to emerge. That's your person. And when you know your person, you're looking at what is her need? What does she need now more than anything else? Boom, freedom. But that's not enough because freedom, like, what does that mean? Financial freedom? No. I had to come up with my own definition for freedom that was true for me. And all of a sudden, I realized that Heather doesn't feel safe enough in the world to say what she really wants to say. So freedom to her is when she finally gets to fully self-express. That is the moment that she feels free. And then I was like, oh my gosh, that is my unmet need. Like, that is my story. Oh, and then all of a sudden, light bulb goes off. And now when I go out and move through the world roads, I only do it in service to Heather. And I empower her to self express, but I can only do that if I self express. So now she and I are in this mutual reciprocation where I'm giving to her and she's giving back to me, and I'm helping her feel free and she's helping me feel free. And it is the most expansive, enlightening, empowering feeling. I can't even express it. You just have to experience it. So, to answer your question, I knew back then that I'm not here to say, Rhodes, this is who I am now. No, I'm not a narcissist. No, you have to believe me. You have to believe me, right? Like, that's not how you change people. That's not how you influence. Instead, I shifted my energetic approach. I shifted my language to that of my core values. And I only did it for Heather. I put the blinders on to all of the other people because they were just characters at that point. So I would go out on social media and I would do a post about, I don't know, how to come up with the bonuses for your book launch. But I would think of Heather and I'd think of what is she feeling today? She's hiding today. She's avoiding today. She's kind of feeling defeated. So I'm going to say, listen, your opportunity to create those bonuses is to help people. And my content is going to tap into those feelings and I'm going to activate her and help her feel empowered and hopeful and see the opportunity. And all of a sudden, all of those other people, they would look at my content and it just wouldn't resonate because my language is different, my energy is different. They're like, I don't even know what she's talking about. And what happens is the most magical thing. There's no conflict. They just go away. They just go find their people naturally. But the Heathers of the world, they would send me emails, tears like, oh my gosh, how did you know what I was thinking and feeling? I felt like you wrote this book just for me. How did you know?
Yeah.
Because I only did it for Heather. Yet 80% of my clients are men, which is always kind of a funny statistic. So you don't have to quote reintroduce yourself and build your case and put it on a billboard and put flashing lights around it. No, the shift happens internally inside of you. And then just let nature take its course. Nature will course correct. It will take all the uglies away and introduce the beauties, and you will live in a peaceful existence once again, even though there's chaos happening. It's just what happens.
I love that. And I've heard different kind of approaches to the avatar, and this is definitely unique. And I'm curious, like you had mentioned that you kind of developed or intuited Heather in like your early 20s. Did you do like any kind of like uh like interviewing of people like Heather, right? To really kind of hone in, or that was more just kind of like you're trusting the tissues and things that are coming up for you internally?
Yes, you strictly, this is so important. You have to only trust your intuition. The first thing that comes up, because your brain is designed to quote, protect you and be logical. This is illogical, right? It's like your brain trying to figure out like what your subconscious is trying to move forward. That you just, it can't. The wires will get crossed between the conscious and the subconscious. That's why you can't do it that way.
Mhm.
So you sit down and listen, the book itself takes you through it in nitty gritty detail. I'm not one of
Yeah.
those people that like gives you some of the solution, but not all of it. So you buy my thing.
Mhm.
No, you get it all with me up front for free. And there's always more I could go into, but like you get it all there. So just do the workbook exercises in the book
Mhm.
and it will guide you through it. And it'll say, like, what is the gender? And are they married? Are they divorced, dating? And you'll just, the first thing that's divorce. Well, that's weird because I'm married. I wonder why that's emerging. I've
Mhm.
had people say they did the quote avatar exercise, been there, done that, Amber, and yet their intuition, it was instead of a man, it was a woman. And they were like, "What? You can't be that. That's not it's illogical to my business." But it was in alignment for who they really were. And
Mhm.
it turns out their business was totally out of alignment with the truth of who they were. And they were sitting here scratching their head why it was so hard to get results with that business because
Yeah.
you were out of alignment.
Yeah.
So this process gets you into alignment finally
Mhm.
and quickly, I might add. And simply, it's not scary. It's actually pretty fun. And you make decisions from that place.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Like that makes a lot of sense in terms of the approach that you have. And um it lands nicely for me just in terms of a lot of the somatic work that I do. So I'm like, okay, yes,
Yeah.
there's a lot of wisdom here if we actually
Yeah.
tune in and maybe turn the internal dialogue down a bit, which is tricky, right? So kind of like going into, I have two more questions for you. One is around kind of the mindset to cultivate in this moment, right? And before we hit record, we were talking about just we're in a massive age of uncertainty, and each one of us has a different relationship to that. Some are better at kind of embracing just the unknown versus others. And so just from a business perspective, and maybe this builds off of what you've just shared, right? But kind of like any guidance on mindset when things feel like everything's crumbling around us, like to still kind of recognize there's opportunities in things shifting dramatically, transforming, right? Because it seems like it is a true transformation. We're not going back to what once was, which is kind of like a change. You can reverse it. Like this is no, this is permanent. And so like mindset that you're kind of trying to cultivate right now, or advice that you might have for us.
Sure. Well, we know that whatever we think about grows, right? And I am keenly aware that there are people in the world right now that are obsessed with media coverage, and they are watching every single article and every single news clip that comes out and every single Instagram, and they're engaging in the comments, they're doing all the things. That's a conscious choice that is contributing to the state of your mental health and well-being.
Yeah.
And there are people that are the extreme opposite. They're like, I'm just going to avoid all of it. And I don't think that's healthy either. So in a moment like this, Rhodes, I think to myself, how can I protect my brain the most? Because I need my brain to be as sharp and clean and clear as possible to navigate what is ahead of me. So this is really interesting, right? Like the brain health, you need to sleep well. You need plenty of water and nutrients. So for me, I start eating better. I start, eating more of a Mediterranean diet instead of Italian. Like I love Italian. Cut back on the alcohol, go exercise more. I don't necessarily want to do these things. I love my plate of pasta, don't get me wrong, but I recognize that we're in a different time right now. And I need my brain to be focused optimally right now. That means I'm also shifting behavior in terms of what I'm putting into my brain. So I don't watch crime dramas and gossip shows and reality crap of manipulation, excuse me. I'm watching only the most clean, uplifting, G-rated shows.
Mhm. Yeah.
I am very careful about what I'm putting into my mind right now because I need it to work optimally, right? That's kind of part of this is you just have to recognize it's a different time. And so the way you treat yourself needs to shift as well. The second thing is I know in a moment like this that there's something emerging far beyond my control. Okay. It is a humanity contraction so that we can grow and evolve into the new era of consciousness. So this moment truly is temporary and it will get better on the other side. History teaches us that. Okay, it will get better. Can't tell you it's going to be tomorrow. I wish it was, but at some point it's going to get better. So this moment is temporary. And while I'm in this contraction, I need to be extra careful that I am not listening to my brain, which is going to be absolutely hysterical. Oh my God, you're going to run out of money. You're going to lose your business. You're going to lose your house. You're going to sell your house. And then you're going to get divorced. And then my kids are going to hate me. And like, don't listen to that thing right now. It's designed to, quote, protect you. So what I do is I ground into my inner consciousness, my intuition. It's not my heart. It's not my brain. It is that third voice. It's your intuition that when you're driving down the road, you take a left turn and that voice says you were supposed to take a right back there. Well, your brain doesn't know that. There was no evidence of it, right? That's your gut instinct. That's the voice I want you to start listening to right now. Now, what that voice told me was something I didn't want it to tell me. I would have rather just hit under the radar and, just kind of coasted by right now. That is what my human self wanted. And it's shameful and terrible. I recognize that, but I'm human. But my gut instinct said, it's time to lead. And I was like, oh man, I don't want to do that though. And so I decided, I was telling Rhodes that for the month of May, I'm launching a free live stream series called the Elevate series. And I did this back in 2020 as well. And I won't go into all the nitty gritty details. You can find me on Instagram about it if you want to watch some of those episodes, but it's really a space to hold space for humanity, to bring in a very diverse group of industry leaders, investors, teachers, educators, trainers, all the things, to have them guide people on what they recommend we do right now. And I'm doing all of this work just to help humanity. And so it would have been easier to not, but my gut instinct said lead, and I know better. I listen to that voice. I take care of my body. And I know that eventually it will all be revealed to me what this time is really about. And then I'll just pick right back up and keep moving forward.
Yeah, I think that kind of the inner compass right now is really key. That's kind of like what I'm pulling from what you're sharing, and to really trust that, and the analysis paralysis that our brains can do might just not be the thing that we need right now, right? So, really wise guidance in terms of just how to navigate the uncertainty that we're feeling. Last question for you, right? I know that you're a parent and I know you think about the future, have a real investment in that. And that's what this show is about imagining the possibilities. And so maybe the internal dialogue, if you could turn that down, just kind of like feel on a full sensory level this future that you're imagining, right? Knowing that this moment is temporary. Like, what are the possibilities when we think about the future, and like how you will contribute in building that, like in the leadership
Mhm.
that you have and that you're
Sure.
owning right now?
Well, that's an easy one.
Okay, good.
um, I feel like a big part of this contraction, and I intuit it's going to be really profound within the next 5 years, but it will extend beyond that in terms of like the healing and the evolving into what's next. So I think we're in this for a hot minute. But
Hmm.
we'll get relief. You'll be supported in between the next decade. But I see, especially with the acceleration of AI, there was a Goldman Sachs report that was published that says AI is on track to replace more than 300 million jobs in the next 5 years. And I think it's going to outpace that even. Now, your human brain could get hysterical and think, oh my God. But I actually think that what's going to happen is more people are going to bail on being an employee. More people are going to learn about entrepreneurship. Now, we have to be leaders for those individuals, because those who are employees, they don't have that same fight or the desire to influence and be in the spotlight and withstand that kind of pressure of being a business owner. So we who are entrepreneurs in this moment have an opportunity to mentor the next generation of entrepreneurs who are going to come in. So note to self there. But I believe that humanity is going to create a lot more entrepreneurship. And frankly, I wonder if that's not part of the bigger political agenda right now that's not being said, but I'll just say that. I look forward to the day that there are more entrepreneurs. Currently, the backbone of our economy. I want to exponentially grow that. And then I see a future of collectives. And so it's been so rad that in the last 3 to 5 years, I've heard rumblings of this word collective, because I was intuiting that big time in like 2019, 2020. Something about a collective wants to come through, and everybody has their own interpretation of what that means right now. But I believe in the core value better together. These entrepreneurs are going to get into alignment, find their people, collaborate with them to create collectives that are stronger together. And I think it's going to be beautiful and incredible. And everybody can have their own space in the world doing their thing. But you will be surrounded by your people and have more strength and light and resilience than you can possibly imagine right now. So you just stay focused on the vision of the future. Don't worry too much about this present moment. You'll get through this and it's going to be amazing. That's what I think is going to happen.
I love that. And I'm just going to end the interview there because that's a beautiful vision. And let's hang on to that. I can see these collectives blossoming and these microeconomies that have a lot of potential. So thank you for adding to this kind of future vision that so many guests have contributed to, Amber. And thanks again for being here. It's been an honor learning from you.
Appreciate the
Um,
opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And for everybody who is joining us live, thanks for tuning in. We have some additional guests coming up later this month, and um, I feel like we're in May, but we're almost there. But then in June,
Feels
we've
like
got
it.
some great programming as well. So thank you so much for watching, and thanks for growing our belonging movement. Take care.